Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome back to Arkham Sound 2 this evening. I'm Richard Steele, taking over for Ray Anderson this evening. Tonight, we have something a little different for you. The recent expedition that has just set sail for Antarctica has left with true pomp and circumstance from everyone the world over, or so it seems. We have just received word from our very own Miskatonic University's Professor Wilma Dyer that this expedition is doomed. Rather than letting me tell you about it, she sent an audio file that she says is all the evidence we need. I'll let you listeners listen and be the judge. But after I listened to it, it got me thinking. Are we truly alone? Has mankind finally mastered the world? And if so, who mastered it first? And who will master it when we are gone? And even more interesting, who masters the beyond? Are we truly masters, or are we just an insignificant speck of dust in the realm of the cosmic hierarchy, with minds so feeble as to be splintered and crippled by any visage of those great, awful, and powerful beings that truly run the universe? That, my listeners, is what we want you to think about tonight as you tune in. Now, enjoy and wonder.
Fingrui, Angulna, Cthulhu, Rilia, Waganagal, Fathagan.
The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance, in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. I am forced into speech because men of science have refused to follow my advice without knowing why. It is altogether against my will that I tell my reasons for opposing this contemplated invasion of the Antarctic, with its vast fossil hunt and its whole-scale boring and melting of the ancient ice caps. And I am the more reluctant because my warning may be in vain. Doubt of the real facts, as I must reveal them, is inevitable. Yet if I suppressed what will seem extravagant and incredible, there would be nothing left. The hitherto withheld photographs, both ordinary and aerial, will count in my favour, but they are damnably vivid and graphic. Still, they will be doubted because of the great lengths to which clever fakery can be carried. The ink drawings, of course, will be jeered at in obvious impostures, notwithstanding a strangeness of technique which art experts ought to remark and puzzle over. In the end, I must rely on the judgment and standing of the few scientific leaders who have, on the one hand, sufficient independence of thought to weigh my data on its own hideously convincing merits, or in the light of certain primordial and highly baffling myth cycles, and on the other hand, sufficient influence to deter the exploring world in general from any rash and over-ambitious program in the region of those mountains of madness. It is an unfortunate fact that relatively obscure men like myself and my associates, connected only with a small university, have little chance of making an impression where matters of the wildly bizarre or highly controversial nature are concerned. It is further against us that we are not, in the strictest sense, specialists in the fields which came primarily to be concerned. As a geologist, my object in leading the Miskatonic University expedition was wholly that of securing deep-level specimens of rock and soil from various parts of the Antarctic continent, aided by the remarkable drill devised by Professor Frankie H. Pabodie of our engineering department. I had no wish to be a pioneer in any other field but this, but I did hope that the use of this new mechanical appliance at different points along previously explored paths would bring to light materials of a sort hitherto unreached by the ordinary methods of collection. The public knows of the Miskatonic expedition through our frequent wireless reports to the Arkham Advertiser and Associated Press, and through the later articles of Pabodie and myself. We consisted of 4 men from the university: Pabodie, Lake of the Biology Department, McTee of the Physics Department, also a meteorologist, and I representing geology, and having nominal command, along with Lake. Besides 16 assistants, 7 graduate students from Miskatonic, and 9 skilled mechanics. Of these 16, 12 were qualified airplane pilots, all but 2 of whom were competent wireless operators. 8 of them understood navigation with compass and sextant, as did Pabodie, Watkins, and I. In addition, of course, our 2 ships, Wood and X-whalers, reinforced for ice conditions and having auxiliary steam, were fully manned. As the newspapers told, we sailed from Boston Harbour on September the 2nd, 1930, taking a leisurely course down the coast and through the Panama Canal, and stopping at Samoa and Hobart, Tasmania, at which latter place we took on final supplies. None of our exploring party had ever been in the polar regions before. As we left the inhabited world behind, the sun sank lower and lower in the north, and stayed longer and longer above the horizon each day. The falling temperature bothered me considerably after our long voyage through the tropics, but I tried to brace up for the worst rigours to come. On many occasions, the curious atmospheric effects enchanted me vastly. These included a strikingly vivid mirage, the first I had ever seen, in which distant bergs became the battlements of unimaginable cosmic castles. On the morning of October 26th, a strong land blink appeared on the south, and before noon we all felt a thrill of excitement at beholding a vast, lofty, and snow-clad mountain chain, which opened out and covered the whole vista ahead. At last we'd encountered an outpost of the great unknown continent and its cryptic world of frozen death. I need not repeat what the newspapers have already published about our early work, of our ascent of Mount Erebus, our successful mineral borings at several points in Ross Island, and the singular speed with which Pabodie's apparatus accomplished them, even through solid rock layers. Our provisional test of the small ice-melting equipment, our perilous ascent of the Great Barrier with sledges and supplies, and our final assembling of 5 huge aeroplanes at the camp atop the barrier. The health of our land party, 20 men and 55 Alaskan sledge dogs, was remarkable, though of course we had so far encountered no really destructive temperatures or windstorms. Despite the almost unanimous account of appalling winds and tempests that poured down from the plateau, we determined to dispense with immediate bases, taking our chances in the interest of economy and probable efficiency. In certain of the sandstones, dynamited and chiselled after boring revealed their nature, we found some highly interesting fossil markings and fragments, notably ferns, seaweed, trilobites, crinoids, and such mollusks as lingula and gastropods, all of which seemed of real significance in connection with the region's primordial history. There was also a queer, triangular, striated marking, about 1 foot in greatest diameter, which Lake pieced together from 3 fragments of slate, brought up from a deep blasted departure. These fragments came from a point to the westward, near the Queen Alexandra Range, and Lake, as a biologist, seemed to find their curious marking unusually puzzling and provocative, though to my geological eye it looked not unlike some of the ripple effects reasonably common in the sedimentary rocks. Since slate is no more than a metamorphic formation into which a sedimentary stratum is pressed, and since the pressure itself produces odd distorting effects on any marking which may exist, I saw no reason for the extreme wonder over the striated depression. At length we resolved to carry out our original plan of flying 500 miles eastward with all 4 exploring planes, and establishing a fresh sub-base at a point which would probably be on the smaller continental division, as we mistakenly conceived it. Geological specimens obtained there would be desirable for purposes of comparison. Our health so far had remained excellent. The outside world knew, of course, of our programme, and was told also of Lake's strange and dogged insistence on a westward, or rather northwestward, prospecting trip before a radical shift to the new base. It seemed he had pondered a great deal, and with alarmingly radical daring, over that triangular, striated marking in the slate, reading into it certain contradictions in nature and geological period, which whetted his curiosity to the utmost, and made him avid to sink more borings and blastings in the west-stretching formation to which the exhumed fragments evidently belonged. He was strangely convinced that the marking was the print of some bulky, unknown, and radically unclassifiable organism of considerably advanced evolution, notwithstanding that the rock which bore it was of so vastly ancient a date, Cambrian, if not actually Precambrian, as to preclude the probable existence not only of all highly evolved life, but of any life at all above the unicellular or at the most trilobite stage. These fragments, with their odd marking, must have been 500 million to 1,000 million years old. The weeks passed, and our expedition made heavy progress with our experiments. Popular imagination, I judge, responded actively to our wireless bulletins of Lake Start northwestward, into regions never trodden by human foot or penetrated by human imagination, though we did not mention his wild hopes of revolutionizing the entire sciences of biology and geology. His preliminary sledging and boring journey of January the 11th to the 18th with Pobodi and 5 others, marred by the loss of 2 dogs in an upset when crossing one of the great pressure ridges in the ice, had brought up more and more of the archaean slates, and even I was interested by the singular profusion of evident fossil markings in that unbelievably ancient stratum. These markings, however, were of very primitive life forms, involving no great paradox except that any life forms should occur in rock is definitely Precambrian, as this seems to be. Hence, I still fail to see the good sense of Lake's demand for an interlude in our time-saving programme, an interlude requiring the use of all 4 planes, many men, and the whole of the expedition's mechanical apparatus. I still remember the conversation.
Are you sure this will be worth it?
Of course it will be. It will make us. These markings are special, I'm sure of it. We just need to dedicate time to study them. Listen, you don't need all of us. Let's split the party. I'll take a few of me, and we can rendezvous with you in a month. Who wants to come?
I'll come.
So will I. Shall we bring the drill?
You can take one of the drills, but I'm staying with Daya.
Me too. But leave one of the planes with us here, just in case we need to leave or meet up with your party.
You're right, yes. Take the plane and a third of the dogs. We'll need more of them than you if we're to transport the rock samples back here. It's likely the planes can't hold the weight. We'll head over the mountains, past Mount Kirkpatrick, and farther down the Ross Ice Shelf, setting up a base camp somewhere underneath the mountain range. I'll send over coordinates upon arrival. We'll meet back here in 3 months, but we'll send messages often and fly back to the ships for supplies. This expedition will be worth it. I promise you that.
I suppose.
Just take care of yourself. Keep up communications and we'll do the same. We'll stay here for another week or so, and then move on eastward over to the base of the range and carry out our tests there. After that, we'll cross the mountains, and from there we shall see.
Perfect. Also, I'm taking Gedney. She's a good kid, especially with maps. I'll get her to chart her path and, God hoping, the fossils that made those marks. Gedney, pack your bags. We set out in the morning.
What? Oh, yes! Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll be ready. Thank you again, sir.
Calm down, kid. You'll melt the ice. You'll be taking Danforth, I suppose.
Of course. He's good with drawing too. I mean, you've seen him. The kid's basically my assistant at this point. Alright, we'll get some rest and see you off at 4 a.m. Good night, Lake.
It's so weird to think. We're the first here. This land has never been seen before by humans or anything other than penguins in the last 100,000 years. I wonder what secrets we'll find. Mountains this high must hold so many secrets.
We got our first telegram from Lake only a few days later. He was frantic. Apparently, beyond the Transantarctic Mountains, they discovered an even larger, more intimidating range.
Dyer and Company. We found a new mountain range. It is incredible. You can't imagine anything like this. Highest peaks must go over 35,000 feet. Everest out of the running. Watkins to work out height with theodolite, while Carol and I go up. Probably wrong about cones, for formations look stratified. Possibly Precambrian slate with other strata mixed in. Odd skyline effects. Regular sections of cubes cling to highest peaks. Whole thing marvellous in red gold light of low sun. Like land of mystery in a dream. Or gateway to forbidden world of untrodden wonder. Wish you were here to study.
He spoke of the ineffable majesty of the whole scene, and the queer state of his sensations at being in the lee of vast, silent pinnacles, whose rank shot up like a wall reaching the sky at the world's rim. Watkins' theodolite observations had placed the height of the 5 tallest peaks at from 30,000 to 34,000 feet. The windswept nature of the terrain clearly disturbed Lake, for it argued the occasional existence of prodigious gales violent beyond anything we had so far encountered. His camp lay a little more than 5 miles from where the higher foothills abruptly rose. I could almost trace a note of subconscious alarm in his words, flashed across a glacial void of 700 miles, as he urged that we all hasten with the matter and get this strange new region disposed of as soon as possible. We next heard from him a few days later, with an even more alarming discovery. He had found what left those marks in the rock.
Carol makes discovery of highest importance in sandstone and limestone fragments from blasts. Several distinct triangular striated prints, like those in Archean slate, proving that source survived from over 600 million years ago to Comanchean times without more than moderate morphological changes and decrease in average size. Comanchean prints apparently more primitive or decadent, if anything, than older ones. Emphasize importance of discovery in press. Will mean to biology what Einstein has meant to mathematics and physics. It joins up with my previous work and amplifies conclusions. Appears to indicate, as I expected, that Earth has seen a whole cycle or cycles of organic life before knowing one that begins with Archaeozoic cells. Was evolved and specialised not later than 1,000 million years ago, when planet was young and recently uninhabitable for any life forms or normal protoplasmic structure. Question arises when, where and how development took place. 10:15 p.m. Important discovery. Orendorff and Watkins, working underground at 9:45 with light, found monstrous barrel-shaped fossil of wholly unknown nature. Probably vegetable, unless overgrown specimen of unknown marine radiata. Tissue evidently preserved by mineral salts. Tough as leather, but astonishing flexibility retained in places. Marks of broken off parts at ends and around sides. All greatly damaged but one, which gives almost 7-foot wingspread. Arrangement reminds one of certain monsters of primal myth, especially fabled elder things in Necronomicon. Can't decide whether vegetable or animal. Many features obviously of almost incredible primitiveness. Have set all hands cutting stalactites and looking for further specimens. Additional scarred bones found, but these must wait. Having trouble with dogs. They can't endure the new specimen and would probably tear it to pieces if we didn't keep it at a distance from them. Attention, Dyer, Peabody, Danforth, matter of transcendent importance. Arkham must relay to Kingsport Head Station at once. Strange bowel growth is the Archean thing that left prints in rocks. Mills, Baudreau and Fowler discover cluster of 13 more at underground point 40 feet from aperture. Mixed with curiously rounded and configured soapstone fragments smaller than one previously found. Star-shaped, but no marks of breakage except at some of the points. Of organic specimens, 8 apparently perfect, with all appendages, have brought all to surface, leading off dogs to distance. They cannot stand the things. Give close attention to description and repeat back for accuracy. Papers must get this right. We'll dissect one as soon as time allows. Did you get all of that?
Yes, sir. What should we do now?
Send it, damn it! My brilliance can't wait. I want Dyer and the others here within a week. Watkins, go take a sled and fetch me one of those fossils. And get my good tools on your way back. I want to dissect one of these things.
Are you sure that's a good idea, sir? It'll be dark in a few hours and they don't look like something you can just split open with a scalpel.
Who has a PhD here, Watkins?
Both of us, sir.
Me too.
Ah. Yes, right. Well, anyway, I'm in charge here, so on the double.
Yes, sir.
Sir? What about me?
Do what you do best, kid. Draw these things. Focus on the complete ones. Then go watch the dogs. Keep them in the kennel, they're going mad. Report to me in the morning.
The dogs keep barking.
We waited for several days, full of awe and anticipation, and then after around the third day, our excitement turned to worry, and then shifted into dread. After a week we decided that it likely wasn't an issue with communications, and we decided to send a search party over to their camp. Taking 2 of the planes and plenty of supplies, Danforth, Peabody, McTee and myself made the journey along the Transantarctic mountain ridge, in a hope of reaching their camp by nightfall. There was a blizzard a few days ago, and so the previous weeks had been overcast at best, but now for the first time in a fortnight, we had clear skies. That's when Danforth pointed out the mountains, well beyond the range we were following. They were massive. Lake was right, they made the Himalayas look like the Appalachians, and there was something off about them. They were darker, and even from a distance we could see they looked smoother. We saw Lake's camp from the air and landed nearby on a flat strip of compacted snow. We walked the rest of the way.
Oh my god. There's so much blood.
Is anyone alive? Lake! Carol! Watkins!
No one. God, even the dogs. All of them.
No, not all. They came with 25. There's only 24 here.
Oh my god. They're butchered, eviscerated. The tents are in ruins.
How? Oh god. There's Watkins.
What killed him?
I can't tell. His whole body is a wound.
Guys, come see this.
Who is it?
Lake.
Shit. No. What happened here?
He was running. He cut open his tent to get out.
There's blood from inside. Should we?
No. But we have to.
Oh God, Carol. God, her skin peeled away. Wait, where are her organs?
I don't know. And the equipment's gone too.
Hey, look at this. This is Lake's. Let's listen.
Lake's log. Dissection of one of the complete specimens. Objects are 8 foot long, all over. 6 foot, 5 ridged barrel torso, 3.5 feet central diameter, 1 foot end diameters. Dark grey, flexible and infinitely tough. 7 foot membranous wings of same colour, found folded, spread out of furrows between ridges. Wing framework tubular or glandular, of lighter grey with orifices at wingtips. Spread wings have serrated edge. Around equator, one at central apex of each of the 5 vertical stave-like ridges are 5 systems of light grey flexible arms or tentacles found tightly folded torso but expansible to maximum length of over 3 feet, like arms of primitive crinoid. Single stalks 3 inches diameter branch after 6 inches into 5 substalks, each of which branches after 8 inches into 5 small, tapering tentacles or tendrils, giving each stalk a total of 25 tentacles. At top of torso, blunt, bulbous neck of lighter grey, with gill-like suggestions, holds yellowish, 5-pointed, starfish-shaped apparent head, covered with 3-inch wiry cilia of various prismatic colours. Head thick and puffy, about 2 feet point to point, with 3-inch flexible yellowish tubes projecting from each point. Slit in exact centre of top, probably breathing aperture. At end of each tube is spherical expansion where yellowish membrane rolls back on handling to reveal glassy, red irised globe, evidently an eye. 5 slightly longer reddish tubes start from the inner angles of starfish-shaped head and end in sac-like swellings of same colour, which upon pressure open to bell-shaped orifices 2 inches maximum diameter and lined with sharp, white, tooth-like projections. Probable mouths. All these tubes, cilia, and points of starfish head found folded tightly down. Tubes and points clinging to bulbous neck and torso. Flexibility surprising despite vast toughness. At bottom of torso, rough but... What's going on? No. No!
What happened here?
Guys, Gedney isn't here. And neither is one of the planes. But I found this. Gedney's audio log.
The dogs keep barking. I have no idea what they find so repulsive about these fossils. After all, they're fossils. I think. They look so lifelike, but they can't possibly be alive. Nothing natural lives 100 million years. I feel like they could spring free of that rocky shell at any moment and come to life. Huh. I guess this is what Professor Dye said when he talked about living fossils. They look like they were sculpted by some primordial god, although they look like they could be primordial gods themselves. That other fellow, Danforth, he had a book. A black book that he read on a voyage down here. It didn't have a title, but we call it the Necronomicon. I saw some of the illustrations and they almost resemble these statues. Professor Lake has been trying to dissect one of these things for hours. He seems convinced that they're real organisms, simply frozen due to the extreme low temperatures. It's getting colder. There's a cold front moving down the mountains. I still can't believe how tall those mountains are. How dark the rock is. It almost looks engineered. God, my head hurts. Night is coming on. The dogs are barking loud and are getting more agitated. Something feels wrong. God, my head hurts. What's that voice? It's in my head. This isn't right. We shouldn't be here. I need to see Lake. Tell him to...
Do you think Gedney...
I have no idea, but I don't know what else could have happened here.
Do you think Gedney took the plane?
It seems plausible, but wait, where are the complete fossils? I'll just see ruins.
There's no tracks in the snow, so they must have not been moved. Could Gedney have smashed them?
It seems likely. Some equipment and a dog are missing too.
Why, Wedger Gedney took them with the planes. We need to find her.
Agreed. Danforth and I will go take one of the planes and see if we can find where she landed hers. But Bodhi, make Ty. Stay here and give them a burial. Also, send a telegram back to base and say Lake and his party were lost in the blizzard. Likely, no survivors. We'll be back by sundown. If we aren't back by tomorrow evening, return to base. That's an order.
Yes, Mum. Good luck out there.
Stay safe.
We will.
Come on, Danforth. Ready our plane.
It was still late out for another 6 hours or so, and so Danforth and I decided to ascend as high as we could to see if we could pick up a trace of the other plane, either in flight or landed. Knowing of Lake's fascination with the taller peaks, and almost with some magnet in our minds, we were drawn in towards those mountains of madness. It didn't take us long to realise that we were not flying in between two mountains, but rather between two watchtowers. The effect of the monstrous sight was indescribable. For some fiendish violation of known natural law seemed certain at the outset. Here, on a hellishly ancient table, fully 20,000 feet high, and in a climate deadly to habitation since the pre-human age not less than 500,000 years ago, there stretched nearly to the vision's limit a tangle of orderly stone, which only the desperation of mental self-defense could possibly attribute to any but a conscious and artificial cause. We'd previously dismissed, so far as serious thought was concerned, any theory that the cubes and ramparts of the mountainsides were other than natural in origin. How could they be otherwise, when man himself could scarcely have been differentiated from the great apes at the time when this region succumbed to the present unbroken reign of glacial death? Only in the incredible, unhuman massiveness of these vast stone towers and ramparts had saved the frightful thing from utter annihilation in the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years it had brooded there among the blasts of the bleak upland. Corona Mundi, roof of the world. All sorts of fantastic phrases sprang to our lips as we looked dizzily down at the unbelievable spectacle. I thought again of the eldritch primal myth that so persistently haunted me since my first sight of this dead Antarctic world, of the demonic plateau of Leng, of the Maigo or abominable snowmen of the Himalayas, or the narcotic manuscripts with their pre-human implications, of the Cthulhu cult of the Necronomicon, and of the Hyperborean legends of the formless Thathoga, and the worse than formless star spawn associated with that semi-entity. The nameless stone labyrinth consisted, for the most part, of walls from 10 to 150 feet in ice-clear height, and of a thickness varying from 5 to 10 feet. It was composed mostly of prodigious blocks of dark primordial slate, schist and sandstone, blocks in many cases as large as 4 by 6 by 8 feet, though in several places it seemed to be carved out of a solid, uneven bedrock of Precambrian slate. The buildings were far from equal in size, there being innumerable honeycomb arrangements of enormous extent, as well as smaller, separate structures. The general shape of these things tended to be conical, pyramidal, or terraced, though there were many perfect cylinders, perfect cubes, clusters of cubes, and other rectangular forms, and a peculiar sprinkling of angled edifices whose five-pointed ground plan roughly suggested modern fortifications. The builders had made constant and expert use of the principles of the arc, and domes had probably existed in the city's heyday. Flying over this vestige of a bygone and ancient age, we soon found, in what can only be described as a street, the disassembled wreckage of Gedney's Plain. We brought our own plane down next to the wreckage, and upon closer inspection saw that this wasn't so much a crash as a salvage. The plane was taken apart, with only skeletal remains. Also, to our initial surprise, we found no bodies, either of Gedney or the dog. One thing that did stick out to us, however, were a series of scratch marks on the tail wing of the plane, but at that point it was solved in our minds as an unsolvable phenomenon of the weather, perhaps from the blizzard before. Looking around this vast and desolate metropolis, we see, a few meters from the wreckage, the opening of an archway that led into one of the buildings on a downward slope. Grabbing all of the paper, pens, lights, rope, and walkie-talkies we could, we made our way into the ruins. To describe the ruins in detail here would not serve my purposes of dissuading you listeners of going to see them for yourselves, so I will only give an overview here. In time I plan to publish our findings in a more scientific paper, but I feel I must wait until Danforth recovers before that happens. Anyway, we descended into the ruins, which were made of a slick, almost obsidian-like colour, that although they were black, worked with the snow and the sunlight to leave the ruins fairly well illuminated, at least on the upper levels. We passed through these without incident, although it is the lower levels that things truly become noteworthy.
Danforth! What is this place?
I don't know. It has to be at least 100 million years old, but how?
Does this remind you of anything?
The images from the Necronomicon. Yes. Almost perfectly.
Me too. I feel whoever created that book had to have seen this.
I agree. Look, there's a split in the way. Huh. This looks like a mural of some kind.
You're right. Here, take this walkie-talkie. I'll go to the left, you go to the right. Copy down everything you can and see if we can make sense of this place or who built it. I'll do the same.
Dyer, do you copy? Over.
Copy. Over.
I found something. I think it tells of what these things are. Over.
Copy that. I think this mural tells of the history of this place. It's full of murals of these fossils. Over.
They look just like the elder things in the Necronomicon. Over.
Agreed. I think they might be. Over.
Should I tell you what I see? Over?
Copy that. Over.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to interpret this, although I may be wrong. In any case, intensive further study of these murals will be needed, and the artistic evidence will need to be compared with the artifactual in order to draw up a more precise picture of this place. They built a city. This city with the help of these formless things that look like the Shoggoths of the Necronomicon. They first built a city underwater, and then this one soon after, with the Shoggoths' slaves. Of the life of the Elder Things, both under the sea and after, part of them migrated to land. Volumes could be written. Their anatomy, society, and history could each be told in tomes too big to possibly exist as one book. Those in shallow water had continued the fullest use of the eyes at the ends of their 5 main head tentacles, and had practiced the arts of sculpture and of writing in quite the usual way. The writings accomplished with a stylus on waterproofed waxen surfaces. It is those lines you see above the mural. They look like tally marks, or like the ancient Occam script of the ancient Celts, being non-pairing and semi-vegetable in structure. The Elder Things had no biological basis for the family phase of mammal life, but seemed to organize large households on the principles of comfortable space, utility, and congenial mental association. In furnishing their homes, they kept everything in the center of their huge rooms, leaving all the wall spaces free for decorative treatment like these murals. Lighting, in the case of the land inhabitants, was accomplished by a device probably electrochemical in nature. Both on land and underwater, they used curious tables, chairs, and couches like cylindrical frames. They rested and slept upright with folded down tentacles. Government was evidently complex, and probably socialistic. There was extensive commerce, both local and between different cities. Certain small, flat counters, 5-pointed and inscribed, serving as money. Though the culture was mainly urban, some agriculture and much stock raising existed. Mining and a limited amount of manufacturing were also practiced. Travel was very frequent, but permanent migration seemed relatively rare except for the vast colonizing movements by which the race expanded. For personal locomotion, no external aid was used, since in land, air, and water movement, alike the Elder Things seemed to possess excessively vast capacities for speed. Loads, however, were drawn by beasts of burden, Shoggoths under the sea, and a curious variety of primitive vertebrates in the later years of land existence. How did they get these Shoggoths here? And what became of them? Professor Dyer, I don't know how to describe it. I'm petrified with fear, but I'm already sucked into this place. I don't want to leave until we've uncovered all the mysteries here. Over.
Wow! That adds up to this. This mural says, I think, myth or otherwise, it tells of the coming of the Elder Things to the nascent, lifeless Earth out of cosmic space. They're coming, and the coming of many other alien entities, such as at certain times embark upon spatial pioneering. They seemed able to traverse the interstellar ether on their vast membraneous wings. They had first lived under the sea a good deal, building fantastic cities and fighting terrific battles with nameless adversaries by means of intricate devices employing unknown principles of energy. Evidently, their scientific and mechanical knowledge far surpassed man's today, though they made use of its more widespread and elaborate forms only when obliged to. Some of the murals suggest that they had passed through a stage of mechanized life on other planets, but had receded upon finding its effects emotionally unsatisfying. Their preternatural toughness of organization and simplicity of natural wants made them specially able to live on a high plane without the more specialized fruits of artificial manufacture, and even without garments, except for occasional protection against the elements. It was under the sea, at first for food, and later for other purposes, that they first created Earth life, using available substances according to long-known methods. The more elaborate experiments came out of the annihilation of various cosmic enemies, namely their truce with the star spawn of Cthulhu. They had done the same thing on other planets. After making food, they used whatever was left over to create life. But more importantly, shapeless, monstrous slaves. The viscous masses are without a doubt the Shoggoths in the Necronomicon, though even that book had not hinted that any existed on Earth, except in the dreams of those who had chewed a certain herb. When the star-headed elder things on this planet had synthesized their simple food forms and bred a good supply of Shoggoths, they allowed other cell groups to develop into forms of animal and vegetable life for sundry purposes, extirpating any whose presence became troublesome. With the aid of the Shoggoths, whose expansions could be made to live prodigious weights, the small low labyrinths of stone, not unlike those which later rose on land. Indeed, the highly adaptable elder things had lived much on land in other parts of the universe, and probably retained many traditions of land construction. The buildings of the city are likely no different to an uncountable number of cities stretched across the cosmos. This one, of course, is in ruins. After their decline, they left, but those that remained swore a vow to forever protect this place from any threats. The elder things killed Lake, not Gedney. She was fleeing.
God. Do you think they caught her?
I don't know. But I do know this. The Shoggoths rebelled, fighting their masters as well as fighting with the star spawn of Cthulhu, drove the elder things under the sea, or to remain above ground, but to take on a fossil-esque shape to protect their city. They didn't set out to murder Lake. It was self-defense.
There's something else. Over.
What is it? Over.
The elder things feared something else. Beyond the city, there are taller mountains, and there's a pit inside. There's something in this pit that they fear. They won't go anywhere near it. Even the Shoggoths are afraid of it. Over.
Does it have an illustration? Over.
No. All there is this line, repeating and repeating of what looks like a speech bubble from both the Elder Things and the Shoggoths. Fignui Malgraf Cthulhu Rai Wakaflad Fatagan. Over.
That's from the Necronomicon. Any idea what it means? Over.
Not a clue. Come this way. The path goes onward. Over.
Hey. It goes this way?
Yeah. Shall we?
Yes. Let's go.
The phrase is repeated a lot more here. I have a bad feeling about this place.
Me too. Something is wrong. Wait. There's blood behind that door.
We found debris. Debris from the plane. After what we had found in the other room, we were, in a measure, prepared for this encounter. The really great shock came when we stepped over and undid one tarpaulin whose outlines had peculiarly disquieted us. It seemed that others, as well as Lake, had been interested in collecting typical specimens, for there were two here, both stiffly frozen, perfectly preserved, patched with adhesive plaster where some wounds around the neck had occurred, and wrapped with patent care to prevent further damage. They were the bodies of young Gedney and the missing dog. Many people will judge us callous as well as mad for thinking about the northward tunnel and the abyss so soon after our sombre discovery, and I am not prepared to say that we would have immediately revived such thoughts, but for a specific circumstance which broke in upon us and set up a whole new train of speculations. We had replaced the tarpaulin over poor Gedney, and were standing in a kind of mute bewilderment when the sounds finally reached our consciousness. The first sounds we had heard since descending out of the open where the mountain wind waned faintly from its unearthly heights. Well known and mundane though they were, their presence in this remote world of death was more unexpected and unnerving than any grotesque or fabulous tones could possibly have been, since they gave a fresh upsetting to all notions of cosmic harmony. Had it been some trace of that bizarre musical piping over a wide range which Lake's dissection report had led us to expect in those others, and which indeed our overwrought fancy had been reading into every wind howl we'd heard since coming into the camp horror, it would have had a kind of hellish congruity with the aeon-dead region around us. A voice from other epochs belongs in a graveyard of other epochs. As it was, however, the noise shattered all our profoundly seated adjustments, all our tacticked acceptance of the inner Antarctic as a waste of utterly and irrevocably void of every vestige of normal life as the sterile disk of the moon. What we heard was not the fabulous notes of any buried blasphemy of elder earth from whose supernatural toughness an age-denied polar sun had evoked a monstrous response. Instead, it was a thing so mockingly normal, and so unerringly familiarized by our sea days off Victoria Land and our camp days at McMurdo Sound, that we shuddered to think of it here, where such things ought not to be. To be brief, it was simply the ruckus squawking of a penguin. We followed the sound, deeper and deeper into the bowels of this alien city. A short while later the sound became louder and louder, and we started to realize that there must have been at least a dozen of these birds at the end of the tunnel that we traversed. Though when we found them, they were not at all what we expected. They were tall, at least our height, if not taller, and they were completely albino. They squawked and squawked, and then we soon realized that they had no eyes. They just aimlessly squawked and wandered through the corridor as if congregating at something at the further end.
What are they looking at?
I'm not sure. Let's go.
Are those the elder things?
Oh my god.
They've been decapitated. Oh God, they were hacked apart.
Yeah. They're slaughtered.
Wait. Listen.
Wait. The mural. The rebellion. There's one thing that could kill the elder things with such hatred.
A Shoggoth!
That's it!
Hurry! It's gaining!
I'll fly! I'll fly us into the western mountains, and then we can circle around and join back at camp. We can never tell anyone about this. Ever. Not even what you may die. This is between you and me until we die. There's a kid. Danforth. No one can ever know.
I have said that Danforth refused to tell me what final horror made him scream out so insanely, a horror which, I feel sadly sure, is mainly responsible for his present breakdown. We had snatches of shouted conversation above the winds piping and the engines buzzing as we reached the safe side of the range and swooped slowly down towards the camp, for they had mostly to do with the pledges of secrecy we had made as we prepared to leave the Nightmare City. Certain things, we had agreed, were not for people to know and discuss lightly, and I would not speak of them now but for the need of heading off that Starkweather Moor expedition and others at any cost. It is absolutely necessary for the peace and safety of mankind that some of Earth's dark, dead corners and unplumbed depths be left alone, lest sleeping abnormalities wake to resurgent life and blasphemously surviving nightmares squirm and splash out of their black layers to newer and whiter conquests. All that Danforth has ever hinted is that the final horror was a mirage. It was not, he declares, anything connected with the cubes and caves of echoing, vaporous, wormly, honeycombed mountains of madness which we crossed, but a single, fantastic, demonic glimpse among the churning zenith clouds, and what lay back of those other violet westward mountains which the old ones had shunned and feared. It is very probable that the thing was a sheer delusion, born of the previous stresses we had passed through, and of the actual, though unrecognized, mirage of the dead Transmontane city experienced near Lake's camp the day before. But it was so real to Danforth that he suffers from it still. He has, on rare occasions, whispered disjointed and irresponsible things about the black pit, the cavern rim, the proto-Shoggoth, the windowless solids with 5 dimensions, the nameless cylinder, the elder Pharos, Yog-Sothoth, the primal white jelly, the colour of space, the wings, the eyes in the darkness, the moon ladder, the original, the eternal, the undying, and other bizarre concepts. But when he's fully himself, he repudiates all this and attributes it to his curious and macabre reading of earlier years. Danforth, indeed, is known to be among the few who has ever dared to go completely through that worm-riddled copy of the Necronomicon kept under lock and key at the college library. The higher sky, as we crossed the range, was surely vaporous and disturbed enough, and although I did not see the zenith, I can well imagine that its swirls of ice dust may have taken strange forms. Imagination, knowing how vividly distant scenes can sometimes be reflected, refracted, and magnified by such layers of restless cloud, might easily have supplied the rest. And of course, Danforth did not hint any of those specific horrors till after his memory had had the chance to draw on his bygone reading. He could never have seen so much in one instantaneous glance. At the time, his shrieks were confined to the repetition of a single mad word of all too obvious source.
Naguli, Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia, Wugnakl, Fata. Naguli, Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia, Wugnakl, Fata. In Naguli, Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia,
Glui, Magluna,
Wugnakl, Fata.
Waganagla,
Naguli,
Finglui,
Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia, Wugnakl, Fata. In Naguli, Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia, Wugnakl, Fata. Naguli, Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia, Wugnakl, Fata. Naguli, Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia, Wugnakl, Fata. Naguli, Magonafa, Cthulhu, Lia, Wugnakl, Fata.
In his house at Relia, dead Cthulhu waits, dreaming.